Hey wedding filmmakers, Bobby here from Wedding Film School, and today I'm going to share with you my current #1 change that you should all be making to take your initial client meetings to the next level. Thanks for being here. If you like wedding filmmaking content, we'd love to have you subscribe. And if you want to be the first to see gear reviews and tutorials, or if you want to be alerted when we go live for our weekly wedding film reviews, make sure you also click the notification bell. No, I'm not talking about what to discuss or which questions to ask. Instead, I'm sharing a practical change that you can implement right now, and that is to up your game with your production value of your virtual meeting setup. So check this out. As a client, would you rather be talking to a professional videographer over Zoom or whatever in a setup like this? Or do you think you might be a little bit more impressed and perhaps trusting of someone whose setup looks like this? Now, of course, you can have a great setup and still bomb the call, and you can have a terrible setup and still have a great connection, but I think we all know the answer to that question. So let's dive into why it's so important and exactly the setup I use. The reality is that in this day and age, most meetings are happening over FaceTime, Zoom, Google Meet, or something like that. And even when the world goes back to normal, I anticipate this trend sticking around. Yes, there will be people who still want to grab coffee or a beer, but even before things in the industry were forced to shift to virtual meetings, we found that more and more of our couples preferred to hop on a phone call or FaceTime, at least for the initial meeting. So now more than ever, it is important to impress your clients, and it's really easy to do. Since I've implemented my setup, I've had maybe 4, 5, or 6 initial meetings over video chat, and every single couple has commented on how professional and clear my setup looks and sounds. So trust me, people notice. And the best part about these setups is that more than likely you've already got a lot of the gear you need, because after all, we do video for a living. And if there are things that you're missing, most of these pieces of equipment are pretty cheap, and I'm gonna link them all down below. So let's check out the setup. So I'm here in my office, and I like recording my videos for Wedding Film School with this black backdrop, which I bought off Amazon for a real cheap price. And then I just grabbed a long wooden dowel at Home Depot and a couple receivers or something like that. I'm not actually sure what they're called. And I hang that up across the room behind me. You don't need to use a black backdrop though. You can use whatever you want as your background, but just make sure to give some thought to what will be behind you and how it will be lit, if at all. Next, let's go to my camera. This is the Sony a7 III, and it's just one of my cameras that I use for weddings, so you should already have a camera that you use to get some nice crisp video. I get this on a locked monopod that sits just behind my desk, and a pro tip here, I don't like taking it all off to change the battery. So when it's just being used in this location, I run a USB battery bank into it, and I have that hidden back here. Then let's talk about how to connect it to your computer, as this is an important step. I use a camlink 4K capture card, and it works perfectly. I run my camera into this and plug it into my computer, and my computer will then recognize it as a camera source, kind of like a webcam, and you'll just need to jump into the settings of Zoom or Google Meetup or whatever to set it to that camera. Now, this capture card is something you may not already have, and it will set you back about $100, but I have used this other capture card for live streaming as well, and it has worked. Disclaimer, I actually don't own it, but if you want to take the risk of having to return it if it doesn't work, you could save some money and grab this other one for cheaper. For audio, I'm using a blue snowball, which is $50, and it's a great mic for that price. It comes with a little stand and a few other accessories, and this is a great upgrade over your computer audio for live stuff, especially for $50. Last but not least, no studio type setup is complete without lighting, and my lighting is pretty darn simple. My key light is a Godox SL60W, which I love as a cheap light. I think I got like 2 of them for $200 or something, but you can use whatever light you want. The main thing is you want to be able to mount some sort of softbox on the front. I've got this nice big one on there, and I have it literally as close to me as possible, but just out of frame of the camera. And I want to show you how it's actually mounted, because this is literally the best thing ever. Fitting a light stand in a small room is tough. I can never get it in the right spot. It was always in the way, but this little desk clamp light stand solved that problem. It's cheap, it's sturdy, and it just clamps onto a desk or whatever surface you want, and allows me to get my light super close and right where I want it. Then I also have a rim light, the Comer 1800, but you can use literally anything you've got for this. I have it shooting over my backdrop and out of frame, just hitting the back side of my head to separate me a little bit from the background, and that is it. A very, very simple setup. So there you go, my #1 change that wedding filmmakers should be making right now, and how to do that setup without investing a ton in gear, using things that you likely already have. I know I'm not the only one who has upgraded their video chat setup, so if you're doing something different, or if you're also finding success in using a new setup like this, I wanna hear about it down below in the comments. We've got a ton of great content here on Wedding Film School for you between myself, Jared, and Jason. So I'd encourage you to check out our other videos, as well as our podcast, The Wedding Film School Show, and our weekly live film reviews, where we review films submitted by our amazing community of subscribers, which is you guys. Speaking of, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell so you can be the first to know when we drop new content or go live. Join us over on our Facebook group, Wedding Film School, and I will see you in the next video.